And we are back on Force 13 Live. The time is 10 p.m. UTC. That's 11 p.m. here in the UK, and that would make it 6 p.m. in the US, on the US East Coast. My name's Nathan Foy. I'm joined in the studio by Daniel Hudson, who's mostly listening to us all have an interesting conversation, and we're joined by the Skype team as well. Wonderful. Yes. You can talk now.
Right. So while Nathan was saying that, I was saying that is now currently 5 p.m. Here over on this side of the Atlantic.
And 8 o'clock over here on the east coast of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no need for me to tell what time it is here, because I'm in near enough the same location as what Nathan is.
Same time zone.
Family.
Same time zone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is awkward.
No, I'm just laughing at something that's going on away from the stream. Wonderful. Right, let's see, what's everyone saying? Nothing really that I should be picking up on, apart from one of our other commenters, SP4449 Lover, who says, what does everyone predict for this year? I mean, many people have already said that. I'm sure Craig will say it next. For them, it's 17 named storms, I assume in the Atlantic, 9 hurricanes, and 5 to 6 majors.
That's definitely Atlantic.
I'd go with that.
Mm.
Maybe a bit more tropical storms, mind you.
Okay. Sounds good.
It's not too bad. I'd go with it.
Right. Any interesting or funny comments coming out of that way, Nathan?
Oh dear.
Well, no. Martinez says, any chance of a Hawaiian landfall?
Well, that's near enough. How can I say? Not almost a certainty, but it is possible. Sometimes when obviously there's going to be a hurricane in the area or a tropical storm.
I would say chances are below average this year.
I would say
I agree with
for average to maybe below average. It just as Craig pointed out, it really just depends on how this La Nina sets up.
Mm-hmm.
If it becomes this moderate to strong La Nina as been stated by some, we could have it that this cold pool extends all the way out to the West Pac and is pretty much death for the Pacific storms. Or it could be moderate to weak, and you may have one or two systems, decent systems in the West Pac and the Central, and maybe one or two small little minor systems in the East Pac.
I could see maybe, just maybe in the terms of major hurricanes in the East Pacific, maybe we could just see strongest storm, maybe about the same strength as possibly Hurricane Jimena, around about there, Category 4, 155 miles an hour, 150.
Yeah, I'm thinking Cat 4. I mean, you still may have some of that energy left over from the El Nino, as a small spot, warm spot in the middle of a cold ocean. That may allow a system to get up to some quite decent intensities, but I definitely think that this year the East Pac, Central Pac is going to be very very quiet, and I think after the amazing year they had last year, they definitely need some quiet time to get themselves sorted. And
seeing as how it wasn't Atlantic's year last year, for storm trackers and meteorologists' sake, let's hope it's the Atlantic's year. But let's also hope everyone else stays safe.
Here this year, and one thing that that definitely assures me that this year could definitely be quite an active year was that the fact that we had one of the strongest El Ninos on record last year, and yet the Atlantic was able to produce the amount of storms that it did, and that's amazing.
Is
That
this this thing
that
that is this the sign that the Atlantic's, how can I say, going under evolution and adapting to somehow avoiding severe effects from El Ninos?
Mhm.
Who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Is it just a theory? But it might be. You never know.
Yeah.
Might be.
And with this whole thing, right? Conditions weren't great last year, but still was able to produce the amount of storms it produced. It was able to produce the strongest, which I believe was Joaquin,
Yep.
and it was an El Nino. So this year, with the onset of the La Nina, with conditions being even a good bit a lot more favorable than what it was last year. Just imagine the possibilities that could occur based on what happened last year with a very strong El Nino, and this year with developing La Nina, making it even more favorable.
In other words, that's near enough unthinkable. If you want to take it into that context, it's near enough unthinkable, and it's sort of a scary way to think about it, but it's one way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm,
It's near enough unthinkable.
Yep. Yep.
And the probabilities of a very significant hurricane, let's say the dreaded thing that we haven't had for near enough how long now? Near enough 10 years.
Yeah, I definitely think that we'll break that record, and I do think that the storm shield, the storm barrier that's been sitting over Florida for the past 10 years will indeed fail this year. I definitely think Florida will definitely get at the very least one, if not more, systems impacting Florida already as we sit down here now. There's already agreements in the models and starting to come out with thing about the tropical system developing across the Western Caribbean and pulling into the Gulf of Mexico and landfalling in Florida during the next week or so, during the next couple of days through next week. I will be getting more into detail with that a little bit later on. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that Florida's shield will fail this year, and I definitely think most of the storms will be concentrated in the Caribbean, in the Gulf of Mexico, and off the southeast U.S. That's where I'm thinking most of the storms will be this year. I think you may have one or two out in the Atlantic. You might have one or two heading up the northeast U.S. through New England, but I think most of it Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, southeast U.S.
That'd be fair enough. And also, just to add very, very quickly, just to quickly say here, I know this isn't really something, but one of my mates at school said he was going to Florida, right, for his summer holidays on the 22nd of July. I kindly and calmly gave him the warning, well, you better hope there's no hurricanes.
Where in July?
Didn't put him off.
Where in July?
Yeah. Well, the fact is that if anyone lives in these areas, and if anyone
watch your backs.
in these areas during the season, they definitely do need to be notified on what are the possibilities and what could happen, and just make sure they know what they're getting into before they get there and then get stuck and experience a hurricane or a storm and they're stuck in the middle of it.
And let's hope we don't have a very bad hurricane or whatever, where people aren't heeding the warnings when we've seen areas that have done this before. I think it happened recently with Tropical Storm Ronu in the North Indian, where people in was it Bangladesh where he made landfall? I think it was. But they didn't heed warnings. That's the thing. You need to heed warnings. You need to listen. I'm not me like going to be a scaremonger here, but hey, it's what happens. You
Okay,
do need
then.
to listen to these things though,
Yeah.
because you may think that your RSMC may be talking a load of nonsense, but believe me, they aren't. They know what they're talking about. Believe
And
me.
Craig, I also wanna talk more about that. People's complacency with storms, and it gets me mad every year when people are out there making a fool of themselves, getting out there in storms, and not heeding the warnings. When you hear about people like, for example, in the U.S. That decide, oh, I'm gonna go to the beach and watch the storm as it comes in, or I'm gonna go surfing or go for a swim on the beach as the storm comes in. I mean,
Come
common
on.
sense would say that that's just being very stupid, but
Hmm.
what people think that, oh, it's a small storm. Oh, I'm a good swimmer. I could dive. Oh, I'm a Navy guy. Swimming is nothing to me. This or that kind of thing. The truth is, no human should mess with Mother Nature, because Mother Nature will always win. Mother
Exactly. If you
Nature
think you
will
can survive
always.
a whole, because here's the thing. I know this is an important lesson. Now we've all learned this from the famous date, October 23rd, 2015. Hurricane Patricia, a very small hurricane with a very big punch.
Oh yeah.
And I mean a big punch. We all know about the big punch that she had.
Oh, very.
200 mile an hour winds, or after postseason analysis, 215 is the second most intense tropical cyclone the world has ever seen.
Mhm.
And I mean, this is a small hurricane. Just don't consider hurricanes, very strong hurricanes like Patricia, to tip. I mean, it shows you how easily a very small hurricane can explode. And
Oh
we
yes,
saw,
definitely, definitely, and even weak storms itself. You may have a weak tropical storm that may look as ugly could be, but these storms could still produce a lot of damage and can kill
Mhm.
people. Like, for example, last year with tropical storm Erica, when it came to the Caribbean. Yes, the storm did look very ugly. Yes, the storm did pretty poorly, and yes, the Hurricane Center did do poorly on the forecast, having this thing as a hurricane into the
Going
U.S.
towards
But
Florida.
yes, but people said no, they weren't going to listen to it. People said, "Oh, it's a tropical storm. Oh, it's ugly. It ain't going to do much." And you see what happened? It wrecked the Eastern Caribbean, especially Dominica. Dominica got it real bad. But you
Yeah,
see,
they got the worst
it
flooding
doesn't
in what? How many
it
years?
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a Cat 5 with 250-mile-an-hour winds. God, I hope that day never comes.
Oh
Or,
no.
or a tropical depression with 35-mile-an-hour winds. You know,
As we've seen
it could
with
kill.
Ronu, that killed how many people in Sri Lanka? I mean, I think that killed at least a good amount of people, unfortunately. Or
Mhm.
unfortunately, in case I
Yes,
didn't say that
but
clearly.
people do need to listen and heed the warnings.
They
People
do.
should not risk should people should not risk their own lives just for the sake of, oh, I just want to see a storm, or oh, it's nothing, or oh, just for a photo op or taking a selfie in a storm.
Hmm.
You
It's
know
not clever.
it's not worth it, right? It's not
No,
worth it.
just
Because seriously, is it worth it? Is it worth it to go out in a storm to take a selfie and a piece of metal, a zinc roofing come and slice your head off?
Nope.
Is it really worth
You're
it?
gonna literally look like a blithering idiot if it happens, and if you're still alive. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously, you may look clever. No, you're not. You're just making yourself look like an absolute idiot.
I mean, there are some people. There are some people who their job is to get out into storms and to do
Yeah,
their jobs. Whether it's the science part, the meteorology part, going into storms to research and so on, or whether it's the jobs of law enforcement, emergency personnel, military, search and rescue to go rescue people who decided to be very foolish and get themselves stuck out there. I mean,
yeah,
and people got to give consideration for them, right? You've gone out there and done something stupid to get yourself stuck out there and have to drag people to risk their lives to come get your bum out of that situation.
exactly. But I think there's one key hurricane that you can really point that out to, and I think that one, no offense to anyone from New Orleans, was Hurricane Katrina. The
Yes.
amount of people who thought they could try and outwit the storm surge was unbelievable. Okay, right enough. Right, no one knew that the levees were going to fail. Heck, even I didn't know that was going to happen. I mean, she was a Cat 3, but still, Category 3 or not, she can still do that at a horrendous amount of damage, as we saw. Obviously, the floodwaters did most of
Especially
that.
at that time, Katrina was one of the larger storms on record at the time until it was broken later that year, and then throughout many more years afterwards, more storms have broken it. But at the time, it was a very large storm when it did make landfall. So you could have, and it goes to the same thing where I'm saying where you could have weaker storms, but they're more powerful. Like here's one for example. There's Hurricane Sandy, 2012, right?
Mhm.
When Sandy came in and made landfall, and when it was coming in close, it was Category 1 tropical storm status when it did. I do disagree about them making it post-tropical before landfall, but whatever. That's another story for another time.
Mhm.
But it caused a lot of damage, and why it caused a lot of damage was because this storm was massive, and it was a decently powerful Hurricane Sandy was, and it grew in size, and that energy didn't escape the storm. It's still there in the storm. It's got to go somewhere, So
Exactly.
and a storm like that, it
Do hit the
weakened, but it
walls.
was massive, and all that energy coming onto shore. That's what you get. I mean, it's basically the same energy if Sandy was still remained as a major hurricane and made landfall, smaller size, same amount of energy, same amount of damage. With Sandy actually making landfall as it was as a weakening storm, but its massive size. That's where all the energy went. And so it goes back to what we were saying about weak storms could still have strong impacts, especially the big ones.
I mean, we saw that also referring to a North Indian cyclone of last year of Tropical Cyclone Coleman. I mean, okay, right, this storm, we barely even seen it get named before it literally weakened. This storm sat over Bangladesh for near enough 3 days, dumping near enough a month's worth of rain, maybe even more, and killing 170 people.
Mm.
I mean, this storm barely had winds of 40 miles an hour. But then again, letter of the law, stuff the wind speeds. You don't care. Literally, it's not the wind speeds you care about. It's the rain that you worry about. Because it's not the wind speeds. Okay, the wind can whip up some pretty damaging and deadly stuff. But
Hmm.
it's not that. 9 times out of 10, it will not be the wind that kills you. It will be
Yep.
the storm surge. You will
Yep.
die from drowning.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if you think that there's a joke that I'm joking about that and I'm not making any sense of it, Believe me, I am. I am being as serious as I ever could be. And when I say it, when I mean it this way, I mean it.
Yeah.
Because
People don't understand the power of water.
exactly. I mean,
Water
the
is
thing.
a powerful force. I mean, if you don't believe me, look at a water saw. They use water to cut through, very hard metal, and it cuts
Yeah,
through it like a hot knife through butter.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I've
I
also
mean,
had flood damage up
admittedly,
here.
admittedly, when it's going through that, that's what nearly 1,000 miles per hour that water is going at. But still, in a storm, you have the water going at what 100 to 190 miles per hour plus.
You're not
That
double
thing
that.
could be deadly as hell. Jeez, you know.
Exactly. I mean, I've had obviously okay, we get hit by. I'm in the UK and we get hit by extratropical cyclones, but Windstorm Frank, I mean, hell, I'd never seen a flooding like it. I
Mhm.
mean, this thing had completely destroyed the flood banks. I mean, I'm being serious. It completely destroyed them.
Mhm.
There was a massive hole, and apparently this hole was 1,000 feet deep.
Yep.
Now imagine the power of the water going through that, and it even near enough destroyed the dam. It moved it, even though it's designed to move. But that it physically moving the dam. I mean, it's amazing how much power water has.
Indeed,
So it
indeed.
shows you what's the deadly factor? Is it wind or is it water or is it wind and debris?
Mhm.
It's neither the wind and debris. It's water.
Yes, and
That's
and
what kills
what,
people.
and
Sorry.
you know what? To add to that, if you want, you could add the wind factor to it.
Hmm.
Wind-driven water is
That's the
even
most
worse.
dangerous.
It's even worse.
Oh hell! You
Okay.
get caught in that well.
Bob Nicaro says, I'm excited for this season. My prediction is 16-7-3. Finally, a season that doesn't look like it will be inactive.
You're
Yes,
joking.
indeed, indeed. And I'm worried though. I'm worried because of the fact that the Atlantic season hasn't been active for the last couple of years. I think people have now become complacent. People now believe that the last couple of years that's what an average hurricane season looks like. That's what we would be expecting for the rest of our lives, which is certainly not the case at all. The and then the fact that people are becoming more complacent about it because they haven't had an impact like this, like what we've seen between 1995 and 2010. Um, you know, it's a bad thing with complacency, and we got to make sure people know about what's likely to happen, and we got to reteach people what storms are and what they can do, and having a few little small storms impact the area. At least it gives them a taste of what it can do. But it really takes the big one before people actually listen, and we want to try and change that where people listen no matter what the storm is.
Wonderful. Daniel, you're yawning.
I'm not.
You are. Okay, it's just over 90 minutes, 96 as a matter of fact, until... Stop banging. Until the hurricane season starts in the Atlantic officially. Wonderful. It's going fantastically well here in the Force 13 studio. I'm Nathan Foy, joined by Daniel Hudson here for the first time ever actually a studio guest. Wonderful. We watched the sunset, and now it's terribly dark here at HQ. You can barely see anything on your screen apart from, of course, the Skype chat. Temperature's 57 degrees and continuing to decrease.
We've dropped to 10.
Crikey. Already down to 10 Celsius at Lee's place. 14 here. Daniel, are you still hot?
No, not really.
Oh, good. That's good to know. We've still got the window
Well, he's
quite
cold.
ajar.
Nathan, he's Coldson.
Yes, indeed.
He's not Hotson anymore.
Well, we've just got 5 more minutes with this segment, so is there any final things you would like to say for now?
Well, I'm
Or
just gonna
to discuss?
quickly go through what's it called? The disturbance in the Eastern Pacific. Obviously, just gonna have a quick look here at post-tropical cyclone Bonnie, which is up to 20 miles an hour. So she is slowly redeveloping as she moves. What's the National Hurricane Center, not National Weather Service, called for northeast at 4 miles per hour. So she's moving slow enough to possibly redevelop, but I need to check the conditions. And also, East Pacific disturbance 10% in the next 48 hours. This is over the latest advisory. It has become less organized since yesterday, so but the environmental conditions are expected to become more conducive for slow development, so nothing spectacular. So possibly, maybe depression, maybe weak tropical storm, if it's lucky. But a tropical depression is still likely to form later this week as the disturbance moves slowly west-northwestward. Formation chance through 48 hours, obviously very low, 10%. Formation chance through 5 days, high, which is a very high 80%. To be honest, I'm surprised they've put it up to 80% despite it being so disorganized.
Yeah, well, we'll have
I'm
to.
surprised at.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see what happens. And I would urge everyone to keep in touch and keep on looking out. We'll be updating it every so often on how conditions get. So I also will say that when we do come back, that I will be getting into discussions about possibly seeing a storm number 3 for the Atlantic Basin when we come back.
Well, we're going to be taking a break now, and we'll be leaving you guys for a little while whilst we speak to some other people in the next half hour. And at 11 o'clock UTC, we'll be back, maybe with the whole gang, bringing them all in at the same time. That would be quite hectic, wouldn't it? We'll see what happens. But in the meantime...
Start singing the end of the world.
Oh, goodness me. We'll be back soon.
Okay.
To Force 13's live hangouts. As you can see, my name's Nathan Foy, and today, at least for the first minute, I'm upside down. I'm joined by my fellow upside down friends. Craig, hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm upside down.
Fantastic. Daniel, hello.
Hello.
And the noise is coming from John.
I can't go upside down. I'm sorry. I'm trying.
If you spot a blooper on the Force 13 channel at any time this year in 2016, watching the 2015 bloopers right there, send us a message to our usual mediums and make a note of which point, at which time that you saw that blooper and which video it is if it's already one that's online, and we'll consider it for the 2016 blooper reel. Oh boy, here we go again. Hurricane Dean, Hurricane Alan, Hurricane Wilma, Hurricane Gilbert, Hurricane Emily, and many more in a documentary from Playa del Carmen, Mexico, August the 2nd to the 13th on Force 13. Welcome back. My name's Nathan Foy, joined by Daniel Hudson in the hot seat in the Force 13 studio. And we've swapped 4 for another 4 in the Skype room. We'll probably bring them all together later on, maybe. But they're here right now. Where are they? You'll hear them in the background somewhere. Hello.
Hello, guys.
Oh my.
No.
That's the sound of Marcel, Devon, Cesar, and I think Orlando's there as well. I'm just trying to get them up on the screen. There they are. We've got plenty of people on the team, and we're giving them all an opportunity this evening to talk about what's going to go on in the Atlantic and elsewhere this season. And guys, would you like to pick up on anything that was discussed earlier, maybe, or you're completely going your own different directions?
Well, maybe not something that's just maybe something that hasn't necessarily been discussed yet to this point that much, but now that he's in the call, I would like to hear more about Cesar's documentary that he's producing.
Well, I'm just producing a documentary about the 6th anniversary of Hurricane Alex in my city. And I think it will be a very great project, but of course I'm preparing it. Maybe it will be released in the next month, July 1st.
Well, it would be nice to be logical to do it on the anniversary, wouldn't it?
Exactly. So, yes, Evan?
No, it just sounds very interesting, and I can't wait to see what you dig up.
I can wait too. I think it's going to be amazing because, of course, a lot of things happened and that day, and of course, a lot of things to compare to Hurricane Gilbert in 1988 is going to be very amazing to know about the information of Gilbert and Alex and compare why Alex is considered the worst disaster in my city than Gilbert.
Wow.
And Gilbert,
Right.
Yes, it will going to be interesting, but you need to wait 1 month.
Is it considered even worse than Beulah?
We don't have a lot of effects about Beulah. It's
more
not
along
so
the coast,
important.
isn't it?
Yes. Gilbert was directly over my city, and Alex too. And Alex and Gilbert were the worst disasters in my city so far. and it will be very good to compare it. So, and maybe you can have like an opinion about that when the documentary is released.
Wonderful. So, how has the documentary production been? Are you in the advanced stages there, or is it still early on? Have you done
Well,
the filming? Have you done the narrating, or whatever it takes in that documentary?
well, I just want to try how can I do it, but I went to the Santa Catarina River to film some scenes and some dialogues to tell you how it is right now and how was the river before.
Yeah.
And maybe you can see how much it can a hurricane destroy, because when I was little in the Santa Catarina River, I was going there like every time to play in the go karts or playing soccer, and well, in just one day, all of that disappeared, and it will not it will not exist again. You know. So it
Okay,
would be
well,
interesting.
Let's go on to the burning question that we've been asking everyone tonight. Let's start with who's on the left, and that's Cesar in my panel here. Cesar, how many? What do you think the totals will be in the Atlantic this year?
Well, in my totals, I think it will be 16 named storms, and of which 8 it will be hurricanes, and maybe 2 or 3 can be major
Any Cat
cyclones.
5s?
I expect one Cat 5.
You're expecting one.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Okay. So I
Stefan
think
was gonna be next. Sorry, Marcel.
okay.
You'll get the turn unless Stefan's not available right now.
Okay. So I
not.
think that the 2016 Atlantic hurricane seasons will be with 19 storms,
19.
Damn, that's a lot.
9 hurricanes, and 4 males.
4 majors. And how many Cat 5s?
1.
Just the one. Well, I say just. Yeah.
Just one.
And will any of them
How
hit
many?
Colombia?
I don't think that any storm will hit Colombia.
Oh, that's a shame, isn't
That
it, for you?
is
Well, actually, you show us a map, like a prediction of about the percentage of in which region can I forgot the name. Sorry. How percentage a region will have to receive
Oh, the
storm
graphics that I did.
conditions? Yes, that stuff. I don't know how it's called.
Yes,
And
the little maps.
I'm still very impressed that the eastern coast of my country, well, Mexico, it will receive 80% of Category 1 conditions and 40% of Cat 3 conditions. So maybe a hurricane can arrive in my HQ this year.
Well,
But of
looking
course,
at those graphics again,
it's
the
a possibility.
biggest chances of major hurricane landfalls is in Hispaniola,
Florida.
Hawaii, and Haiti, and the Dominican Republic.
Oh my goodness.
Shut up. Followed by Puerto Rico.
Blooper reel.
Yeah, the most Lesser Antilles and the Bahamas. Followed after that probably by Jamaica, rest of the Caribbean, with moderate chances for the eastern coast of Florida and Cesar's area. That's for a major hurricane. For any old hurricane, the chances are much higher. Let me try and get that graphic up right now before I ask Devon the question. Yeah, very high chance of hurricane conditions in that whole Caribbean area. Cuba in particular, 80% plus, and the coast of Mexico, not far from Cesar. High chances there as well. Devon, what do you think about the upcoming season?
Okay, so we've got a rapid change in the ENSO here, happening right now. Going to dip down into a La Nina. We've already got 2 tropical storms and a hurricane up on the schedule, but that doesn't mean anything towards the regular season. Usually, there's been found to have no correlation at all. But anyways, this might sound like it's a bit on the conservative end to begin with, but I'm going to say that tropical storms are going to be anywhere in between 13 and 15 most likely. However, the ratio between storms and hurricanes is likely to be very high, I believe, with hurricanes 8 to 10 and majors 3 to 5. As far as accumulated cyclone energy is concerned, or ACE for short, I think there's a 50% chance that the ACE will be between 150 and 170, which puts the season into the hyperactive region. A 75% chance between 135 and 185, and a 95% chance between 110 and 200. And when you put all that together, there's a 60% chance of an above average ACE, a 30% chance of near average, and 10% below average.
Have we got Orlando? We have him in spirit at least.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure if we've got the audio.
He dropped out. Orlando's
back again, but the audio isn't so.
I think
it's
that the
non-existent,
hurricane,
unfortunately. But
a hurricane will not affect Colombia, or at least his islands region.
Yes, the islands.
Like San Andres, like Providencia,
the islands
or
just
the
north of
Case,
Colombia, indeed.
Rocador, Quitasueño, Serranilla.
Oh, we do have Orlando.
Orlando, are you here?
We're just discussing how many storms we're expecting. Okay, we had him very briefly, but he's gone again. I don't know why.
Perfect. That was a very good answer, Orlando. Thank you very much. Well,
sorry, Cesar. I was just going to ask another question. In what part of the Atlantic would you be most concerned about being in this year?
Well, I think the Caribbean, the Caribbean Sea will be a very interesting point to pay attention.
A bad season for Florida?
I think it will be a bad season because, well,
bad season for Florida,
because watching your models and your forecast prediction of major conditions in the Bahamas, maybe Florida can have the same conditions or particularly similar conditions. They are very close each other, and well, maybe we can see like 1 or 2 intense hurricanes there.
I think we're going to have a bit of a blend between 2010 and 1998, actually.
That's actually kind of what I was thinking along the lines, something like 98, 96, 2010, something like that.
The last hurricane to affect the Colombian case was Hurricane Felix in 2007.
Yes.
So Felix was a Cat 5 in 2007, so maybe a Cat 5 in this year will affect Colombia too. You don't think so, Marcel?
There is an average chance of the G-name storm of 2016 being a Cat 5, actually. That is confirmed.
Gaston. Oh my god.
No more, please.
What? Is there something wrong with that name?
Gaston is the name of my cat.
Oh, I see. Oh, I forgot about that. Never mind. We'll move on swiftly. Also, there is a above average chance, as I said earlier today, 60% or higher, that we'll see a 150 mile an hour or stronger storm in October. What do you think of that, Devon?
I think that it's possible. But then again, a hurricane entering into the Hudson Bay and making landfall in Rankin Inlet is also possible, but very unlikely.
Oh my.
Oh,
Well, historically talking, an October major hurricane is very possible because in the last years we had a lot of major hurricanes in October. Examples like Joaquin,
yeah, one.
Paloma. No,
Nina's-
but wait.
I thought you meant
Nina's
last year
love-
alone.
No,
I
not
would
last
like to
year.
say,
I mean,
yeah.
generally in all those years, like Omar and well, Paloma was in November, but it's still the same too late season storm.
Huh.
And Sandy was in October and it was major too, and etc. and etc. So
Ninas
possibly.
love to develop category 4s or 5s late season in the Caribbean. You take a look, well, maybe just hurricanes in general in the Caribbean, October, November. Ninas love to develop them. Whether if you take a look at Paula, Richard, Thomas of 2010, that train, or you take a look at Hazel, you take a look at Hurricane Lenny, Hurricane Paloma, if I even pronounce that right. Hurricane Omar as well as a late season system.
So
during
that's
the Hurricane year.
that's why I think that the Caribbean Sea is going to be a very interesting zone to pay attention, because generally the Caribbean Sea develops late season intense hurricanes.
Mitch,
that could-
Mitch was in October too, I believe.
Mitch was a late season storm too, and it was Cat 5, the worst disaster in Nicaragua.
Worst disaster in the entire Caribbean, maybe even the whole Atlantic.
Yeah, almost.
But almost, well, it killed almost 20,000 people. So
I've seen
Of
I've
course.
seen totals as high as 25,000 personally.
That
Oh.
was Hurricane Mitch.
Yes.
That was the worst disasters in the history of Honduras.
That's
And
right.
Pick up games.
okay, let's talk hiccups later, please. Don't pay attention to my body reactions.
Well, the oh, hold on. Oh, that's interesting. Ignore that. Moving on. I was just going to say something else, but didn't. Where are we going next? Let's see some of the comments. Okay, Martinez says, I'll probably be thinking of 2012 because we already have both the A and B named storms forming off season. I assume Devon might object to that one because of what he said at the very start about how it has no real bearing on the rest of the season. Bob Nicaro says, I think the high pressure setup right now will push storms westward, kind of like 2005-07 into the Caribbean, and that we could see late season activity, kind of like Mitch, Lenny, and Paloma, due to lower shear from La Nina.
All right.
oh my.
But anyways, let's get into a few things here. I'd like to bring up a satellite image of the ConUS, if that's not objectionable.
Yes, of course.
All right, is this coming up?
Not yet.
No.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
so the first thing I'd like to point
here it
out
comes.
here is
Got
this little swirl off the coast of North Carolina. That's just disregard that and look at this massive extratropical system that's currently centered right over Bismarck, North Dakota, basically. I
Oh,
mean,
yes.
look at this thing. This stretches all the way up into central Alberta, and the cold front goes all the way down into Mexico. I mean, this system's huge.
It's rather large.
Oh.
If we take a look at the Storm Prediction Center here, blow up their convective outlooks, I think that's pretty important. You can see here on the satellite, here's basically the center of circulation, and this thing is producing showers and thunderstorms. Basically everything here past Duluth, down through past Minneapolis, down through Des Moines, through Kansas City, and then there's a little break once you get to Kansas City, and then once you start getting down into the Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio areas, oh my God, there's just an absolute deluge going on right now in central Texas. And I know that there's several flash flood watches and warnings there. Elsewhere, you can see here in the lesser shaded region, we have what are basically known as what I at least call them popcorn thunderstorms. They just form from the afternoon heat and humidity that happens, especially in front of massive systems like this. Look at this thing. It's unbelievable. But you get showers and thunderstorms just pop up. I'm uncertain as if any of them are warned. I don't think they are, but needless to say, they're going to be slow moving due to the lack of any steering currents and probably are producing very heavy rain. And you can see here's some rain associated with that little swirl that's completely irrelevant, though. Elsewhere, we're going to bring in the weather.gov here because I think this is a good way to just check out everything. If we look up here, we have red flag warnings up in Oregon and Washington, especially in the Walla Walla region. That extends all the way down into central Oregon beyond Bend and goes all the way up to Sunnyside and Yakima. So very elevated fire danger there in southeastern Washington, north central Oregon. A very high heat danger for the for the desert southwest here.
Oh, now Devon, I mentioned this
Yuma.
just over an hour ago, and there were only watches back then, so things have changed since I spoke about that.
I would be surprised if there are all excessive heat warnings wherever you go. Yuma, Phoenix, Gila Bend, Lake Havasu, Las Vegas, Death Valley, you name it, it's underneath an excessive heat warning, and it's going to be hot. Temperatures are expected to exceed well into the 1-teens in many places, especially around Lake Havasu, Yuma, and Furnace Creek over the weekend is expected to get up near 120 degrees Fahrenheit for the first time this year. And if you're wondering, gosh, that's pretty warm, they hit 120 every year there. The hottest place on Earth. So,
Well, Arizona is always the hottest place in the United States. It's a desert there.
yep. I've already explained it, all the flash flood watches and warnings that are currently set up in Texas. We also have some flood advisories here along the Missouri and Mississippi rivers.
Devon, this is the first time I've really been observing these things. Is Texas having a worse than usual year? 'Cause it seemed to be very wet there this year.
I haven't really been following it too much to really be noticing it. Oh, wait a second. Down here. I just noticed this popping up. We actually have a tornado warning down here in Texas, crossing I-37. That's interesting. But anyways, getting back to your point, yeah, Texas has been in definitely some sort of drought heading through the El Nino. But once La Nina kicks in, yeah, this is pretty normal for Texas. They just get a complete drenching.
Wow.
So as the weather shifts, we're going to see California, Nevada, Arizona just go bone dry again, and the entire Mississippi, Missouri River Valley usually get a really good deluge. Elsewhere, though, in the States, nothing much is going on. So, other than this massive system here.
Alright.
Let's take a look at some model runs here, and specifically I want to take a look at the East Pacific model runs, because that's really the only place that, well, models are expecting things to happen. There could be maybe a subtropical lull in the Central Atlantic, but it's unclear, and I don't want to jump to conclusions, but the NHC has tagged Invest 91E, and it looks pretty likely that it's going to develop. So we'll follow the CMC, not the CMC, the GFS, for as far out as they'll let us. We'll get to the CMC right after the GFS, and you'll notice the clear difference between the two. And as you can see, the
Tropical
GFS,
storm.
yeah, about a tropical storm. That's about it. The GFS actually, in previous runs, had the storm much stronger than that, 990 millibars at the very least, and curving very abruptly to the northeast towards Mexico, but never getting there. So that's an interesting change. It's now more in line with what the CMC was today, which we will now get to that model. Whenever it decides to load, of course.
Well,
Now,
of course, it's a
here's the
long-range
CMC model.
model, so
And here we go again with another tropical storm that we're tagging here. About 1,000 millibars. But notice here that there's a little tropical disturbance here as well.
in landfall in Guatemala.
Yeah, near Guatemala and the area
Chiapas.
of Mexico that Pauline hit. You probably know the name of it, Cesar. I certainly don't.
Yes, it's the state of Chiapas in the south of Mexico coast.
Excellent. I will not try to repronounce that.
There's worse places than that to pronounce.
The ECMWF is actually producing a closed low for the first time. It hasn't been producing anything out of this heat pack system, and it's still not really producing anything. So that's usually a shot in confidence whenever the European model isn't on something. And the 18Z NavGem hasn't come in yet. That's just great. But one of the interesting things here about the NavGem, once you see it start playing, and I pointed to this earlier, though I think it got largely ignored, is that the NavGem develops this tropical depression here, and it heads into this area of Mexico. I'm sorry. Thank you. And basically dissipates from there. So that's
between Oaxaca and Guerrero.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that.
That's basically the most interesting things that I've seen out of the models.
Well, we're coming up to the end of this hour, so thank you guys for being here, and we'll probably bring you into the stream again in around half an hour's time. But for the time being, we're going to go on with 1 hour to go till the start of the Atlantic Hurricane season.
Excellent.
Okay.
You're watching Force 13's live streaming service.